Σας καλωσορίζουμε και στη σημερινή συνάντησή μας για το σεμινάριο της αποστάσεως εκπαίδευσης. Σήμερα, όπως σας είχαμε ενημερώσει, είναι μια εμβόλυμη συνάντηση με τον κύριο Colin Newton και Newton και κατά κύριο λόγο θα εστιάσουμε σε δικές σας απορίες. Έχουν σταλεί στους ομιλητές οι ερωτήσεις μάλλον που μας είχατε στείλει και από τα ερωτηματολόγια και βεβαίως μπορείτε να χρησιμοποιείτε το chat κατά τη διάρκεια της συζήτησής μας. Όποιος μπορεί στα αγγλικά κατευθείαν, ακόμη καλύτερα. Διαφορετικά η κυρία Σοφιανοπούλου θα μας βοηθάει λίγο με το θέμα αυτό. Και να είμαστε όσο το δυνατόν πιο πολύ επικεντρωμένοι στο θέμα συζήτησης για να έχουμε όσο το δυνατόν περισσότερο χρόνο με τους ομιλητές. Σας ευχαριστούμε πολύ. Mr. Colin and Mr. Elliot?
Yes, thank you. Kalaspera. Lovely to be here this evening from the UK. I'm Colin Newton. I've been an educational psychologist for 36 years, and I'm married to a head teacher and based here in Nottingham, right in the Midlands of the UK. And I'm pleased today to be joined by Elliot Newton, also a psychologist.
Hello, everyone. I've done a lot of work with autistic young people over the years, and a lot of just work with individuals around friendship and around connection, community building. So that's where most of my experience comes from. But yeah, we're here today to answer some of your juicy questions that we've got a list of questions that we are going to go through. But I'll try and take a graphic of your answers to these questions or our answers and get as much detail on there as possible. And there's 3 themes that we might end up talking about, which are screens, creativity, and engagement. So we'll go through all of them and have some thought-provoking discussion around it. So hopefully this is a useful session, and hopefully you remember, if you came to our sessions last week, hopefully you remember the way that we work and how interactive it is.
And I think we'd like to say at the very start, you know, we have views and ideas to share with you in answer to your questions. But really, we're in very complex times. There is no just one simple answer to many of your deep questions. Sometimes it's based on your own experience and what is most important to you. So we don't want to say we're the only experts here. What we say is absolutely right. You know, listen, trust your own instincts and your own wisdom. Listen to people you love and care about. And this is a time to think about what's most important to you, really, what your values are, as much as what experts might say.
Okay.
And
okay. Just a small pause here. Καλησπέρα σε όλοι λοιπόν και από μένα. Εγώ είμαι Κατερίνα Σοφιανοπούλου, συνεργάτητα του Ιδρύματος Αικατερίνης Λασκαρίδη, ψυχολόγος. Έτσι, σήμερα θα έχουμε τον Colin και τον Elliot Newton να συζητήσουμε πολλές από τις δικές σας ερωτήσεις που έτσι μας τις έχετε υποβάλει, οπότε τις έχουμε και εμείς εδώ και σιγά σιγά θα τις απαντήσουμε όλες αυτές. Ο τρόπος που λειτουργούμε, όπως και στα προηγούμενα σεμινάρια που περισσότεροι θα ήσασταν έτσι μαζί μας, είναι κυρίως ο Έλιοτ με βάση αυτά τα οποία θα συζητάμε, θα σημειώνει στο μεγάλο γραφικό σε αυτό το διάγραμμα τις ιδέες μας και σήμερα θα είναι μια αφορμή όχι ακριβώς να απαντήσουν οι ίδιοι, αλλά όλοι μαζί να δούμε πώς θα μπορούσαμε όλες αυτές λοιπόν τις ερωτήσεις μας να βρούμε έτσι, μια κατεύθυνση, έτσι, γιατί είναι ένα πολύ, έτσι, πολύ πιο complex θέμα, οπότε όλοι μαζί θα συμβάλλουμε έτσι στο να τις κατανοήσουμε και να δούμε λιγάκι πώς μπορούμε να προχωρήσουμε από εδώ και πέρα. Okay.
So, there's a very famous book written by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Love in the Time of Cholera, which I'm sure some of you will have read at some point in your life. And if you haven't read it, it's a beautiful book, also a fantastic film. And we just thought some of what's written, some of the quotations from this book are so relevant to what we're going through in the time of COVID. And we just had to kind of share some of it with you. So Elliot's just going to start off with these quotes, which just seem very relevant to today.
It was a lone voice in the middle of the ocean, but it was heard at great depth and great distance. The heart's memory eliminates the bad and magnifies the good, and that thanks to this artifice, we manage to endure the burden of the past.
Έτσι εδώ μας αναφέρουν δύο αποφθέγματα από ένα πολύ ωραίο βιβλίο, Γκαμπριέλ Γκαρσία Μαρκές, ότι υπήρχε μια έτσι χαμηλή φωνή, αλλά μπορούσε να ακουστεί σε ένα μεγάλο πάθος και σε μια μεγάλη απόσταση, δηλαδή ενώ μπορεί να ήταν μικρή, μπορεί όμως να ήταν πολύ χειρή. Διορθώστε με αν κάποιος από εσάς, όπως και την προηγούμενη φορά, έχετε κάποια άλλη έτσι, καλύτερη μετάφραση για να το δώσουμε και στους υπόλοιπους συμμετέχοντες. Ευχαρίστως.
So, let's hope that we reach
και
a
το
point.
δεύτερο θα συνεχίσουμε στην πορεία. Sorry, Colin, yes.
So let's hope we do reach a point where we can look back and magnify the good that has occurred in these difficult times and not just stay with the bad.
Οπότε για να δούμε λιγάκι πώς μπορούμε να ενισχύσουμε το καλό και να κάπως λίγο σιγά σιγά να μικρύνουμε το δύσκολο και το κακό.
So we are recording this training, so please turn off your cameras if you don't want to be seen on the video. We'll send you the replay after so you can watch it back again. Mute your mics unless you're speaking. You're already doing a great job. And the graphic that I'm recording will be sent out with the replay as well, so you can have a copy of it.
Fantastic, fantastic. Right, so let's get into those questions. We have the sheet here. Many great questions. And thank you, Sophia, for collecting these questions.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
So there are some very challenging questions here, but we will do our best with them. So we'll start with number one. How can I help my family during this difficult period with very limited choices? Katharina, do you want to repeat the question, do you think? Or should we just stay with it?
Sorry, one moment. Just say it again. Sorry.
How can I help my family during this difficult period with very limited choices?
Πώς μπορούμε λοιπόν να βοηθήσουμε την οικογένειά μας σε αυτή τη δύσκολη περίοδο, ενώ έχουμε τόσες λίγες εναλλακτικές. Για να δούμε λοιπόν.
Elliot, would you like to go first?
Yeah, so the first thing I would like to say on this would be, think about how you can create opportunities for choices. Like, how can you create choices? I know we don't have a lot of options in terms of what we do when we go outside. We can't go to the local places that we used to go to in the same way, but we can make choices at home. So we can be like, with our young people, what do you want to eat for dinner tonight? You know, what do you want to, should we cook a meal together and let them decide what they want to cook and then help them cook it? You know, that kind of choice where you're just creating a choice. If you don't have a lot of choice and control of your own life, create some. That's what I would suggest. That's my advice.
Πάνω λοιπόν στην ερώτηση πώς μπορούμε να δημιουργήσουμε ευκαιρίες και επιλογές. Ναι, δεν έχουμε τις επιλογές που είχαμε πριν, να πάμε έξω και να κάνουμε ωραία πράγματα και να βγούμε και να φάμε κτλ. Αλλά τι μπορούμε να κάνουμε λοιπόν στο σπίτι, πώς μπορούμε να δημιουργήσουμε λοιπόν επιλογές και ευκαιρίες στο σπίτι. Και οι ευκαιρίες μπορεί να είναι και επιλογές μέσα από τα ίδια τα παιδιά. Παιδιά, τι προτιμάτε να φάμε σήμερα το βράδυ, να φτιάξουμε μακαρόνια ή να φτιάξουμε κάτι άλλο. Να νιώσουν τα παιδιά λοιπόν ότι έχουν μια επιλογή πάνω σε αυτό. Και υπάρχουν επιλογές, ακόμα και αν είμαστε στο σπίτι.
Yeah, and building on what Elliot's saying, I think anything we can do to make this, to bring fun and enjoyment into what is a difficult time, you're quite rightly saying, because children like fun, they like to play, they like to enjoy situations. So anything we can do to kind of bring some fun into things, I think the better. So the treasure hunt, we're having a particular theme. So we're going to France today, or we're going to the UK today. Let's all dress up as if we were going to the UK. Let's eat as if we were in the UK, or eat as if we were in France, or America, or wherever else. So just kind of just making the time rich, even though we're within a lockdown situation.
Για παράδειγμα, πώς μπορούμε να φέρουμε χαρά και να νιώθουμε ότι είμαστε όλοι μαζί σε αυτό. Π.χ. να παίξουμε ένα κυνήγι θησαυρού ή να νιώσουμε σήμερα ότι π.χ. θα ταξιδέψουμε στην Αγγλία. Οπότε μπορούμε να ντυθούμε, λες και πάμε στην Αγγλία, να φάμε ένα φαγητό που συνήθως τρώνε οι Άγγλοι, να κάνουμε δηλαδή το χρόνο μας όσο γίνεται πιο πλούσιο και να είμαστε εκεί και να το ζήσουμε όσο γίνεται περισσότερο.
Interesting. I was speaking to my wife, who's a head teacher of a large primary school. That's 4-year-olds to 11-year-olds in a city environment, and she was, and the children have come back to school in the UK, and I was asking her what had she noticed about children coming back. You know, which parents had kind of got it right. She said, "Well, that's quite hard to say, really." But what she had noticed was parents that had taken the children out a lot, as much as possible, on walks, which we know you're allowed to do, and kind of built the education into the outings, getting them away from just sitting in front of screens and trying to build the education into those outings, had particularly been beneficial to those children, their mental health, their well-being, but also their academic learning.
Πάρα πολύ ωραίο, πολύ ωραία σκέψη αυτή, πώς είδανε ότι αυτό που είχε πιο πολύ νόημα και για τα παιδιά ήταν όταν οι γονείς τα βγάζαν πάρα πολύ έξω και ουσιαστικά η εκπαίδευση λάμβανε χώρα στο φυσικό περιβάλλον. Μαθαίνανε μέσα από τη βόλτα τους. Ουσιαστικά αυτό, δηλαδή ό,τι μαθαίνανε μέσα από την εκπαίδευση, για να δούμε, για να μετρήσουμε με τα σύννεφα, όπως λέγανε και την προηγούμενη φορά. Δηλαδή, ό,τι μάθουν, το μάθουν μέσα στο φυσικό τους περιβάλλον, μέσα από τις βόλτες και το έξω, και το φαν. Ξέρουμε ότι τα παιδιά όταν διασκεδάζουν και κάνουν φαν πράγματα, μαθαίνουν και καλύτερα.
We'd also like you to invite you all now to use the chat function to answer the question yourselves from your own experiences. So remember the question, how can I help my family during this difficult period with very limited choices? So what are your best ideas? What are your answers to that question? Could use the chat function. If you can do it in English, that'll be ideal. If not, don't worry, use Greek and Katerina will translate for us. But use the chat function.
Όσοι θέλουν να μας γράψουν στο chat λίγο έτσι, ποιες είναι οι επιλογές και πώς θα μπορούσατε να ενθαρρύνετε τα παιδιά έτσι, και να δημιουργήσετε ευκαιρίες μέσα έτσι, σε αυτή τη φάση στην οποία βρισκόμαστε. Οπότε, αν θέλετε και στα αγγλικά να μας γράψετε ή και στα ελληνικά, έτσι, κάποιες ιδέες σας.
Many options, says Angela. Gardening, sorting cupboards out, clearing out to give to charity later on. All very cleansing. Yeah, absolutely, Angela. Have a good clear out. Absolutely. Get it all sorted. And they're real choices. Because children see through artificial choices. They need to know these are real choices. And so anything we can do that does present a real choice rather than an artificial choice, the better. Angela's emphasizing crafts, loads of craft options. Anybody else? Any other ideas on this? To help your family during the difficult period with such limited choices. Well, learning to do things. That's a lovely idea. So learning to ride the bike, and they're still enjoying the ride of the bike now. That's fantastic. So learning a new skill, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Το μάθουμε καινούργιες δεξιότητες, βέβαια, ευκαιρία. Ή δεξιότητες να προσθέσω από τη γιαγιά και τον παππού, έτσι, μπορεί ή από τους γονείς. Κάποια πράγματα που ξέρουν, ο μπαμπάς μπορεί να μαστορεύει κάτι, να μάθουν τα παιδιά μέσα από αυτό.
I was talking to another head teacher in the UK. She told me she'd lost 5 stones in weight and taken up long-distance cycle riding herself as an adult educator, and found that had been really helpful. Those choices to enrich her outings.
For example, table games, or learn how to do our hair, walking with the dog, gardening.
Nice. And new hobbies like calligraphy. Yeah, I like that. Calligraphy is beautiful. Reading books, themed evenings, games evenings, quiz evenings, cooking evenings. Creating a play or a dance. Yes, I love it, Angela. It must be wild around your house, Angela. There's a lot going on here. Taking care of the garden. Yeah, absolutely. ideas for teens too. That's interesting. Every evening we see a reality show all together. Yeah, so for teenagers, what can we do to bring more choices in for teenagers? That's interesting. And so it isn't just the game or not the game. What else can we do here? So Elliot, you're closer to the teenage years than I am. What do you think for the teenagers?
What's the question again?
Could we give some ideas for teenagers too when we think about this big question about helping the family with limited choices?
Teenagers are a nightmare, aren't they? They just want to do whatever they want to do. But so maybe that's what we go towards. What do they want to do, and ask them. Maybe do that rather than do something that you're interested in. I know they probably got their own interests and hobbies that you probably don't care about. So maybe try and bring that out of them and try and engage with their hobbies and their interests as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, isn't it? An American psychologist once said to me, with teenagers, he said, they'll get themselves into problems or get a bit stuck. He said, it's a bit like they've dropped into the bottom of a well. He said, and you don't try and meet them halfway. You don't throw a bit of a rope down and say, I'll meet you halfway. He said, you got to go right down in the well, right to the very bottom of the well, stand right beside them, and then climb up together. So that was his metaphor for meeting and working with teenagers. And it probably makes sense in lockdown, doesn't it, really? Rather than saying, we're going to do some gardening today, come and join me. That's our idea. You're going to have to get much closer to where they are, right to the bottom of that well, see where they are.
Αυτό έχει πάρα πολύ ενδιαφέρον που λέει ο Colin, πώς μπορούμε ουσιαστικά αντί να προτείνουμε εμείς πράγματα στους εφήβους, κυρίως να μπούμε στη διαδικασία, να δούμε τι είναι αυτό που εκείνοι θέλουν, να σκάψουμε μαζί τους βαθιά και σιγά σιγά να αρχίσουμε να ανεβαίνουμε μαζί. Δηλαδή να δούμε ποια είναι τα δικά τους ενδιαφέροντα και πώς μπορούμε τα δικά τους ενδιαφέροντα να τα φέρουμε λιγάκι στην πραγματικότητα και να ασχοληθούμε με αυτά, ό,τι και αν είναι αυτό. Και να το συζητήσουμε. Τι θέλουν εκείνοι λοιπόν να κάνουν.
And some other nice ideas coming through. I think, again, on the teenage theme, discussing, knowing each other, and playing roles like as if it's a bit of role reversal, like you're the teacher, I'm the pupil, you're the cook, I'm the customer. So kind of reversing things a bit. You're in charge tonight. You do the cooking. I'll sit back here and see what you come up with. Or, you be the teacher. You teach me some stuff here I don't know anything about. I know nothing about these games. You tell me about, I can't even work my phone. You tell me how to work my phone. Let the teenager do some teaching for you, really. Put yourself into the learner position. Sometimes that can kind of help. But for younger ones, some nice ideas here as well. In order to avoid running behind my son who rides his bike, bought myself a bike so we can ride together. It's our new hobby. Or, of course, that could be for teenagers as well. Nice bit of bike riding together. If they can bear to have their mother cycling beside them, maybe not with a teenager. Possibly that could be a step too far. Right, let's move on to our next question then. Now, sorry, but before we do that, Elliot, did you get that on the graphic? Can we see what your graphic looks like?
Yeah, I've got quite a few things on there. Let's have a look. Someone just said they're going to help their child do reviews for his YouTube channel, which is quite a good idea.
Very good. And very up to the minute. That's very good. That's very good.
Yeah, I like what you just said, Colin, about when you say the role reversal, asking them to teach you about, your iPhone, that you might have no idea about how to use, but they might be really good at it. So that'll be a good way for them to feel empowered, feel useful as well, feel like they're being utilized, their knowledge. So we talked about lack of choices, and we thought about learning a new skill. We thought about hobbies. We thought about discussing and getting to know each other, and the role reversal. And there's a lot of really good ideas there.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, our next question we're going to move on to now is, and it's still on the teenager theme, how can we help the teenagers not to be angry all the time? Karin?
Προχωράμε στην επόμενη ερώτηση. Πώς μπορούμε να βοηθήσουμε τους εφήβους να μην είναι τόσο θυμωμένοι, ρωτήσε κάποια μαμά. Οπότε για να δούμε λοιπόν τις δικές σας ιδέες, τι μπορούμε να κάνουμε να βοηθήσουμε τους εφήβους να μην έχουν τόσο θυμό αυτή την περίοδο.
Now we know that the teenage years are very tough, challenging years. You're in a point of transformation. You're no longer a child. You're no longer an adult. You're in that awful in-between piece. There's a lot of change around. Your body's going through changes. Your brain is going through massive changes. You know, the two sides are literally linking up. The synapses are connecting. The brain actually changes color through these years. These are very, what can I say, emotional years as well, aren't they? Very emotional years. And that is even when we're not in lockdown. And many young people are waking up angry as teenagers, you know, without us doing anything, without anything being particularly wrong. They're just going to wake up feeling cross with the world, and just angry, you know, with themselves, with their family, with their friends. It's kind of part of that world, the emotional world. So I think even without lockdown, it's hard for teenagers, isn't it? It's a hard time. Elliot, what would you say?
I'd say not only is your body is changing, your hormones are changing, your emotions are changing, but people around you are also changing, and your friends may be growing apart from each other, and you might be developing new relationships with people. You might be developing romantic relationships for the first time, and this is all very stressful, and a lot's going on in your body, and you don't understand it. So it's quite a scary time. So I guess kind of cut them a bit of slack, I'd say. Teenagers, I know that, you know, they're angry all the time, and it's a bit annoying to be around them, especially when you're locked down with them. But just understand that, you know, they are going through a lot, and whatever you can do to like support them, if that means just letting them have space to be angry, then that's probably a positive thing. So yeah, I don't think necessarily you can make them not be angry all the time, because they probably will just be angry all the time when they're teenagers. But just let them be angry. I think it's about acceptance, it's about space probably, and support. I think if you can find a way to coax out of them what it is that they're going through right now, what it is that's making them, troubling them, is it a new relationship they're in, or is it their friendships, or is it, you know, whatever it is, see if you can maybe talk about it, see if that's possible.
Νομίζω ότι συνοψίζοντας λιγάκι όλα αυτά που είπαν και οι δύο, που είναι πολύ σημαντικά, δεν είναι το θέμα να μην τους κάνουν θυμωμένους, αλλά όσο το να κατανοήσουμε όλο αυτό το φάσμα αλλαγών που περνάνε σε επίπεδο σωματικό, γνωστικό, συναισθηματικό, και πώς όλο αυτό τους δημιουργεί ουσιαστικά μια αναταραχή και ένα μπέρδεμα στα δικά τους συναισθήματα και σε όλα αυτά τα οποία βιώνουν, και πόσο σημαντικό είναι να είμαστε κοντά τους, να τους δώσουμε το χώρο να είναι ακόμα και θυμωμένοι, έτσι, να τους αποδεχτούμε και να μπορούμε να τους υποστηρίξουμε με ανοιχτό διάλογο. Και είναι αυτό που σου συμβαίνει, είμαι εδώ, αν θέλεις να το συζητήσουμε. Ή σε βλέπω προβληματισμένο, είμαι εδώ, αν θέλεις να μιλήσουμε γι' αυτό. Νομίζω το α και το μέγα είναι το να νιώθουν ότι είμαστε δίπλα τους και ότι είμαστε ανοιχτοί να τους ακούσουμε και να τους κατανοούμε. Και κυρίως να νιώθουμε ότι τους καταλαβαίνουμε. Αυτό είναι το πιο σημαντικό.
Rich. As I start to respond to this question further myself, again, use the chat function to give us your best ideas about helping teenagers not to be angry all the time. Just literally put your ideas in the chat as you were doing just before. Really helpful. For me, I would really, building on what Elliot said, I think it's so important to, well, the key word I think is listen. Listen, listen, listen. Really as much as you humanly possibly can do, because these young people are usually trying to communicate something to us, and it's very easy to miss what they're communicating with us. So really listen, what are they really telling us here? And this is not just anger for anger's sake. They're not just misbehaving, they're not just being difficult, they're actually letting us know something. We've got to really, really listen, listen, listen. And I'd also say when there are strong feelings around, like anger, we need to acknowledge that. You know, sounds like you're very angry about this. Sounds like you're really upset by what's happening. So acknowledge the emotion. If you can name the emotion, you know, reach out and try and sense what the emotion might be. Check it out with them. Are you feeling angry about this? Because they may not be. It may just look angry, but actually maybe they're quite sad about it, or upset about it, or irritated by it. You see Sorry, Katrina, do you want to come in with that?
Νομίζω αυτό που λέει είναι πάρα πολύ σημαντικό, το να μπορούμε να τους ακούσουμε και νομίζω εδώ είναι και το πώς εμείς είμαστε διατεθειμένοι να μπούμε λιγάκι στη θέση τους και να δούμε τα πράγματα και από τη δική τους οπτική γωνία και να μπορέσουμε και εμείς να προσαρμοστούμε σε αυτή τη νέα αλλαγή. Και νομίζω ότι αυτό είναι και από τις οικογένειες της βοηθάει πολύ, το να μπορούν να προσαρμόζονται στις αλλαγές και τα αναπτυξιακά στάδια που περνάνε τα παιδιά. Μπαίνουν λοιπόν στην εφηβεία για να δούμε πώς μπορούμε να είμαστε κοντά τους, πραγματικά να τους ακούσουμε, να τους καταλάβουμε και πολύ πολύ σημαντικό, είτε για τους εφήβους είτε για τα παιδιά, να καθρεφτίζουμε το συναίσθημά τους. Τώρα σε βλέπω θυμωμένο, τώρα σε βλέπω λυπημένο, τώρα φαίνεσαι προβληματισμένος, τι συμβαίνει. Γιατί καθώς καθρεφτίζουμε τα συναισθήματα και βοηθάμε τα παιδιά και τους εφήβους να καταλάβουν αυτό που νιώθουν, και έτσι δημιουργούμε και μια γέφυρα επικοινωνίας μαζί τους και τους βοηθάμε καλύτερα να σχετιζόμαστε και να συζητάμε για αυτά που τους απασχολούν. Και μην ξεχνάμε ότι ο θυμός, συνήθως αν είχαμε ένα παγόβουνο, ο θυμός βρίσκεται πάνω-πάνω. Κάτω από την επιφάνεια της θάλασσας μπορεί να βρίσκεται στενοχώρια, απογοήτευση, πένθος πολλές φορές. Μπορεί να κρύβεται άγχος. Θέλω να πω ότι συνήθως ο θυμός είναι ένα δευτερογενές συναίσθημα. Από κάτω κρύβει πολλά άλλα συναισθήματα. Οπότε είναι πολύ σημαντικό να είμαστε εκεί να τα ακούσουμε και να τα πλαισιώσουμε.
I think the other thing to remember about anger is often one of the first emotions that other emotions switch into. So the teenager he comes into the kitchen, somebody says something, he's feeling embarrassed. The embarrassment quickly can switch into anger. It's a much easier place to stay than embarrassment. Or they're being asked to do some work, they're struggling to understand the work. It's actually making them big, and anxiety is building, and the anxiety goes into anger. Or they discover somebody else has a girlfriend and they haven't got a girlfriend, and that's making them feel bad about themselves. The jealous feeling, anger. And of course, anger can become aggression. And who is going to experience the aggression and the anger in lockdown? Well, probably the people who are closest to them, the nearest and dearest, which is probably you know, as parents and carers. So you're going to pick up emotions and feelings that probably belong somewhere else, but because you're all compacted in lockdown right now, you will experience them. But it may not just be anger. It may not just be what you see on the surface. It could well be another emotion. That's why, going back to what I said before, it's quite important sometimes to reach for other feelings. I'm wondering if you're feeling very sad about what happened to the cat. I'm wondering if you're feeling, you know, very very anxious about this kind of work you're having to do that the school is setting you. You know, so trying to name other emotions to build out their emotional literacy. That's very helpful.
Και εδώ ουσιαστικά έτσι είπα αυτό που είπαμε και εμείς προηγουμένως και πώς μπορούμε να δημιουργήσουμε ένα συναισθηματικό λεξιλόγιο, δηλαδή να καθρεφτίζουμε στα παιδιά συναισθήματα και να τους αναπτύσσουμε το συναισθηματικό λεξιλόγιο να μπορούν να κατανοούν κάθε φορά τι νιώθουν. Γιατί έδωσε ένα πολύ ωραίο παράδειγμα, π.χ. ένας έργος μπορεί να ντρέπεται που εκείνος δεν έχει κοπέλα και αυτό να το βγει με ένα θυμό. Δηλαδή ζήλια να βγει μετά με μια επιθετικότητα. Δηλαδή πάντα χρειάζεται να ψάχνουμε κάτω από το θυμό τι μπορεί να νιώθει κάποιος και να μην μένουμε σε αυτό το συναίσθημα.
And I love the comments coming through on the chat here. Learning from the books about teenagers, coping with them with a lot of patience. I like that, patience. You need a lot of patience with teenagers. And remembering we were all teenagers once. We were really annoying our parents like mad, weren't we? Not that long ago. So just remembering those experiences. Think of yourself as your most extreme angry teenager self. When you really pushed your parents away from you. We can all remember this, can we? So just remind yourself of that place. And that helps bridge a little bridge of empathy. You haven't got to talk to your own teenager about that, but just remember it in your own mind. It helps us to stay patient. Somebody was wondering about classical music. What music do you think, Elliot? You're the music man.
Honestly, I don't think teenagers want to listen to classical music, but it depends on the teenager. I don't think if I was an angry teenager and someone started playing classical music, it might annoy me more, might push me further away. So it depends on the person. But for me, you know, I've got quite broad music taste, and if you know me and you know what I like, then finding out one of my favorite albums and playing that would help me. But yeah, it depends on the person. But if you find out what their favorite album is or their favorite song is or something and try and play that, that might be nice. Maybe when you sit down to eat your dinner, play that song or something like that. They might appreciate it.
And would that necessarily be chilled out music, or could it be kind of lively hip hop?
Might be really angry music, because that's what's speaking to me right now. You know, it might be really dark and depressing music, but that might be what I'm interested in at that time, and that might be what resonates with my spirit at that time. So, you got to really know what's on their rotation at the moment.
And on the other hand, be careful, because if you're the one who selects it and puts it on, they may not like that, because you've taken some choice and control away from them, and they may resent you for that straight away and get angry with you again. So,
you might just want to ask them to play music, you know, take over. You play some music.
You pick the music. Now that's a good shout, isn't it? And then they have the choice and control, which is immediately we give a teenager some choice and control. You can almost see their anger levels dropping a little bit. So anything we can do that's kind of legitimately giving them some choice and control, that is all going to help.
Well, also on this point, anything they're really passionate about, like for me, when I was a teenager, if I was allowed to play some music, I could start telling you about the musician and telling you about all these different information about this type of music, because you probably don't know about that music. So I would be really interested in talking about that and opening up about my passion. So any passion they've got that you know they're passionate about, whatever it is, trying to get them to talk to you about it. So however you can make that happen.
Even if they're in the middle of the grunting years and they're not giving you much more than and wanting to kind of walk, which, you know, for many teenagers, that's characteristic. That and we're thinking they're angry because they're just grunting at us or not wanting to talk to us, but actually it's not that at all, in fact. Katrina?
Νομίζω ότι και εδώ έτσι λένε ένα πολύ σημαντικό κομμάτι, πώς μπορούμε να θυμηθούμε και εμείς τον εαυτό μας, πώς ήμασταν εμείς όταν ήμασταν έφηβοι, τι θέλαμε εμείς τότε, τι είχαμε ανάγκη, τι θα μας βοηθήσει καλύτερα να συνδεθούμε μαζί τους. Και σε σχέση με τη μουσική, πολλές φορές η μουσική έχει να κάνει με το πώς νιώθουν. Τώρα νιώθουν λυπημένοι, μπορούν να ακούσουν dark μουσική ή να επιλέξουν διαφορετικά ίδια ανάλογα με τη διάθεσή τους. Εκεί έχει σημασία λίγο να δούμε τι είναι αυτό που τους ενδιαφέρει, ποια είναι η μουσική που τους κάνει να χαλαρώνουν και γιατί όχι να μας πούν περισσότερα γι' αυτό. Να είναι δηλαδή η μουσική μια αφορμή για να αναπτύξουμε μια άλλου τύπου σχέση. Να μας μιλήσουν για τον αγαπημένο του τραγουδιστή, τι γίνεται αυτός, τι κάνει, τι μουσική παίζει, να παίξετε μαζί μουσική με τα παιδιά, αν έχετε κάποιο μουσικό όργανο στο σπίτι, και να μην επιλέγετε εσείς, αλλά να αφήσετε τα παιδιά άλλα να επιλέξουν τη μουσική που να τους ταιριάζει.
Other good points coming out of the chat. We need to help them become more self-aware, recognizing their emotions, understanding where the problem is stemming from, having them come up with possible solutions to their difficulties. The only thing I would just say a little bit about, but just be a little bit careful, Irene, on when you're trying to find out where their problem is stemming from, be really careful with the question why, whatever the Greek version of the word why is. Why is quite problematic with teenagers, I think, because it kind of invites a bit of a crash. You know, why are you behaving like this? Why are you angry all the time here? What's going on here? What's making you angry? It's too invasive, and it invites a pushback from the young person. So try and avoid why if you can.
Πολύ σημαντικό έτσι, να μην λέμε γιατί είσαι αθυμωμένος, γιατί το κάνεις αυτό, γιατί το άλλο. Όσο κυρίως γιατί αυτό που πιο πολύ τους απομακρύνει παρά τους φέρνει κοντά. Και αν θέλετε, το γιατί δημιουργεί και μία ενοχή. Με την έννοια ότι το παιδί νιώθει άσχημα και πρέπει να απαντήσει με επειδή, να απολογηθεί γι' αυτό. Δημιουργούνται περισσότερες ενοχές. Ένα άλλος τρόπος είναι να καθρεφτίσουμε όμως. Σε βλέπω θυμωμένο. Τι συμβαίνει, πώς και αυτό. Να μην επικρίνουμε, αλλά να πάρουμε το θυμό και να το κάνουμε μια αφορμή να επικοινωνήσουμε. Και πολλές φορές να καταλαβαίνουμε και το δικό μας συναίσθημα. Μπορεί εμείς να είμαστε θυμωμένοι εκείνη την ώρα και να νιώθουμε ότι ο άλλος, δηλαδή να προβάλλουμε το δικό μας θυμό στα παιδιά. Επειδή εμείς δεν νιώθουμε καλά εκείνη την ημέρα, να πιστεύουμε ότι τα παιδιά δεν νιώθουν καλά. Έτσι χρειάζεται να το έχουμε και αυτό κατά νου.
Maria asks, and if they don't want to share their thoughts with us, what do we do? Well, obviously we need to respect that. We've got to respect that. If they really do not want to share, they may pick somebody within the family, not you, but somebody else they feel safer with, like a brother, particularly maybe an older brother or an older sister, they're maybe much more likely to tell them stuff than they are you. At least they're telling somebody if it's an emotional thing. It's important, isn't it, Liam?
I was just going to say about that, if you do have any older cousins or uncles or people who are maybe a bit closer to them in age that they relate to or they look up to, they might be a lot more forthcoming and less standoffish, like the way they are with their parents. You know, it's a very different relationship, and they might be more open.
So make sure, you know, again, because of lockdown, they can't see the people they would usually share with. Let them have some private time to, you know, FaceTime or Zoom with that other family member, with that cousin, with that friend, to be able to do the offloading. And don't be listening in. Don't be at the door like this, trying to hear what they're saying. They will know you're doing that. So click right out of the way, give them the privacy, give them the safe space to be able to say what they need to say.
Να τους δώσουμε το χώρο και την ιδιωτικότητα να μπορέσουν να μιλήσουν με τους φίλους τους ή με συγγενείς, χωρίς να είμαστε από πίσω από την πόρτα και να είμαστε εδώ να δούμε τι ακούνε. Έτσι, να έχουν λιγάκι το περιθώριο και το χώρο και τον πρακτικό αλλά και τον ψυχικό να μπορούν έτσι να μιλήσουν και να ενεργοποιήσουν συγγενείς, ξαδέρφια ή φίλους που είναι στη δική τους ηλικία. Έτσι, να έχουν μια επαφή, να μην απομονώνονται. Είναι πάρα πολύ σημαντικό αυτό.
And Irene adds, which is just brilliant advice again, letting them know we're there for them when they're ready to communicate. And I think that's a good message. Spot on, Irene, spot on. And let them alone to think and rethink, says Mapia. Absolutely, give them processing time. Don't always be pushing for immediately, you know, the right answer and they're kind of with us there. It's a hard time. There's a lot going on there. They can't always give us, you know, sometimes they're very impulsive, but equally it's hard for them sometimes to kind of really think it all through logically in the moment. And I like that, what somebody said, they're modeling how we solve issues when we're angry. Exactly. And hugging them, Mapia, absolutely right. If they'll put up with it, hug them, absolutely hug them. At least coming close to allow that kind of physical contact with you, because they're not getting it from other people they might want the contact with. Ruth is just underlining the fact they hate the word why. Instead, they love the phrase, you are right. Very good. And then Anta's made some interesting comments there as well. Catherine, can you see those?
Yeah, with love and...
Κυρία Σοφιανοπούλου, συγγνώμη, λίγο πιο δυνατά θα χρειαστεί να μιλάτε. Λίγο πιο δυνατά. Ευχαριστώ.
Ναι, θα προσπαθήσω. Love, I understand, and just help us understand why they are angry, and listen to them and help them realize what is happening, why are they angry, how they are feeling, and just make sure that we know what they have need, what are their needs. It's really, really important, and of course respect their privacy, as we said before.
Very good. Very good. I think it's also worth saying anything to do with the arts, which is Greece is very famous for. Anything on the arts are fantastic ways of expressing emotion, like anger. So if you think of this, think of painting, you know, like Viggo's painting. Think of singing, very loudly singing. Think of dancing about, you know, sort of dancing to music. I think all the arts, you know, all the performing arts, all the expressive arts. Well, it's in the word, isn't it? Expressive arts. So anything like that is a way of expressing emotions. So whether they're doing this privately in their bedroom, doing something expressive, or public, doesn't matter really, as long as it's kind of getting out, really just explored. So some beautiful psychology in anything expressive, including drama, you know, literary drama. So all those expressive art forms, fantastic.
When I was a teenager, I was making rap music, and I was making the instrumentals on the computer, and I was writing lyrics and I was rapping on the microphone, and it was like a really enjoyable thing, and I was doing it with my friends. We all did it together, and it was a big form of like camaraderie and friendship and loyalty, and I learned a lot doing all that. So I'd recommend that you don't discourage them from doing something like that, even if you don't like what they're doing. Encourage it, because it is still a form of expression, and you're literally writing poetry as a 14-year-old boy in the city. It's really weird to think about it, but it was a really a beautiful form of expression. I think it was useful growing up doing that.
να βοηθήσουμε πολύ μέσα από την τέχνη να εκφραστούν. Είτε αυτό σημαίνει να τραγουδήσουν, είτε αυτό σημαίνει να το παίξουν, είτε αυτό σημαίνει να το ζωγραφίσουν, είτε αυτό σημαίνει να το φτιάξουν, να το χορέψουν. Γενικότερα, ό,τι έχει να κάνει με τέχνη. Μην ξεχνάμε ότι η τέχνη είναι η γλώσσα των παιδιών. Είναι η μητρική τους γλώσσα. Χρησιμοποιούμε την τέχνη για να τα βοηθήσουμε να εκφραστούν. Και εδώ μας έλεγε ο Έλιοτ ότι όταν ήταν και εκείνος έφηβος, τραγουδούσε, του άρεσε πάρα πολύ η ραπ και πώς μέσα από τη ραπ ουσιαστικά εξέφραζε τα δικά του συναισθήματα. Οπότε, ακόμα και αν δεν συμφωνούμε με τον τρόπο που τα παιδιά έτσι εκφράζονται, ακόμα και αν δεν μας αρέσει η ραπ, για παράδειγμα, αν αυτός είναι ο τρόπος που εκφράζονται και τους κάνει καλό, γιατί όχι να τον ενθαρρύνουμε.
Let's move on to our next question. Question 4, this is Katerina. How can we explain to children that playing all day on video games is harmful? That's the question.
Πάμε στην επόμενη λοιπόν ερώτηση. Πώς μπορούμε να τους εξηγήσουμε ότι δεν τους κάνει καλό να είναι όλη μέρα μπροστά από τον υπολογιστή και την τηλεόραση.
Elliot, do you want to go first on video games?
So let me just double check the question, because how can we explain children that playing all day video games is harmful? So, okay, this is the assumption that video games is harmful. And this is like something I would debate, you know. I don't know if it's completely harmful. I think that that's your opinion on it, that it's harmful, but I don't think there's any like evidence for that in terms of, I think there is a lot to be said for video games. I think you can learn a lot from playing video games, and it's a good test for your hand-eye coordination, your critical thinking, your strategicness. You know, a lot of things that you have to do, like your coordination with your teammates, your communication, some really, really good things that young people need to learn, and they can learn from playing these games. So I don't think necessarily it's completely bad. So I think the way that you're thinking about it, the person who asked the question, is, you know, how can we let them know that it's harmful, is a negative way to think about it. That's a bad way to think about it, in my opinion. So I'd say, think about with the child, agree with the young person how long you want to spend on playing games every day. If you are going to play it every day, put a limit on it. So 2 hours per day, you know, rather than just letting them play it all day. Each of the consoles, you know, the Xbox and PlayStation, they've got settings, and you can go inside the settings and you can tell it to automatically turn off after 2 hours. So you can actually program them to do that. So probably go on the internet and search for how to do that, and then figure it out. And I think that would probably be quite a useful solution.
Νομίζω ότι η ερώτηση εδώ κάπως είναι σαν να τοποθετούμαστε ενάντια στα βιντεοπαιχνίδια. Πώς μπορούμε να τους πείσουμε ότι αυτά είναι κακά. Ενώ στην ουσία δεν είναι ακριβώς κακά. Μαθαίνουν πολλά πράγματα και αναπτύσσουν δεξιότητες μέσα από τα βιντεοπαιχνίδια, όπως την κριτική σκέψη, τη συνεργασία, το να επικοινωνούν μαζί τους. Πολλά παιδιά φοράνε ακουστικά και επικοινωνούν με τους φίλους τους και μιλάνε. Είναι ο τρόπος λοιπόν που πια τώρα επικοινωνούν και παίζουν και μπορούν να μάθουν πολλά. Επίσης, βοηθάει πολύ και στον έλεγχο της παρόρμησης. Πολλά βιντεοπαιχνίδια, ακριβώς επειδή πρέπει να περιμένουν, πριν πάνε στον εχθρό. Υπάρχουν πάρα πολλές δεξιότητες που ουσιαστικά τα παιδιά μέσα από τα βιντεοπαιχνίδια ουσιαστικά αναπτύσσουν και χρειάζεται λιγάκι να το λάβουμε υπόψη μας και φυσικά να το συζητήσουμε με το παιδί πόσο χρόνο νιώθει εκείνο ότι χρειάζεται για τα βιντεοπαιχνίδια και να ορίσουμε μαζί ένα χρόνο. Υπάρχει στο PlayStation και στο Xbox ουσιαστικά μια επιλογή που μπορούμε να ορίσουμε το χρονικό περιθώριο και μετά από τις 2 ώρες μόνο το να κλείσει. Αλλά νομίζω ότι να το συζητήσουμε αυτό με τα παιδιά είναι η καλύτερη ιδέα. Έτσι και να δούμε τα βιντεοκίμες με έναν άλλο τρόπο. Και να είμαστε λιγάκι πιο ευέλικτοι, γιατί όταν δεν υπάρχουν εναλλακτικές για τα παιδιά, δεν μπορούμε να βάλουμε όριο μισή ώρα την ημέρα, τη στιγμή που τα παιδιά δεν έχουν τι άλλο να κάνουν μέσα. Δηλαδή, καλό είναι και εμείς λίγο να είμαστε λίγο πιο ευέλικτοι αυτό το διάστημα και να ορίσουμε μαζί έτσι, ένα χρονικό περιθώριο για τα παιδιά.
And although from an older generation, and I don't really like to see children spending all day on video games, again, there is, it turns out the psychological research they've done on video gaming, exactly as Elliot says, reveals a number of skill sets that are being explored from particularly the cognitive skill sets that seem to be particularly highlighted. So memory, concentration, attention, problem solving. So there's very specific, particularly the attention concentration pieces are actually, you know, there is actually increased learning in some of those areas. So surprising it may seem to be to people, particularly in my generation, there is actually a lot more being learned in the video games than we might realize, actually. So there's a lot going on there. I think so. I'd say that for starters. And the other thing I think I'd say is negotiate is key in this, really. So you do your schoolwork this piece, you can do some video gaming. You do some more schoolwork, you do another piece of video gaming. So a bit like Elliot Skinner, get it down to a certain number of hours that the young person can spend on that activity, breaking it up with other kind of other things you're asking them to do, or school is asking them to do in terms of their academic learning. So use it as kind of some leisure time or some downtime or more relaxing time. And again, can we encourage people to use the chat to chip in on their ideas on this as well?
Mm-hmm. Έτσι, πολύ σημαντικό αυτό που λέει ο Colin, ότι ουσιαστικά τα παιδιά μαθαίνουν καινούργιες δεξιότητες μέσα από τα video games, κυρίως γνωστικές δεξιότητες, έτσι όπως αναφέραμε πριν, και το κομμάτι της μνήμης και της συγκέντρωσης, επίλυση προβλημάτων. Θέλω να πω ότι χρειάζεται πια, τα καινούργια παιχνίδια είναι πολύ πιο εξελιγμένα και απαιτούν αυτές τις δεξιότητες και οπότε μπορούμε να το δούμε και από μια άλλη οπτική γωνία. Επίσης, μια συνάδελφος από το Facebook μας αναφέρει ότι χρειάζεται να τους βοηθήσουμε να είναι καλοί με τον εαυτό τους, να καταλαβαίνουν πότε έχουν ένταση, να παίρνουν αναπνοές, να τους δείξουμε πώς μπορούν να χαλαρώνουν, έτσι, με λίγα λόγια. Και να καταλαβαίνουν ότι μπορούν να ελέγχουν το συναίσθημά τους και γιατί όχι να βρούμε μαζί τρόπους που μπορούν να χαλαρώνουν. Να πούμε και εμείς τι είναι αυτό που μας χαλαρώνει και να βοηθήσουμε και τα παιδιά να βρουν τρόπους γι' αυτό. Αλλά κυρίως πρέπει να κατανοήσουν ότι αυτό τώρα είναι άγχος, τώρα νιώθω μια ένταση. Και τι είναι αυτή η ένταση, τι μου λέει αυτή η ένταση.
Somebody asked the question: do those particular cognitive skills appear in or are learned in every video game? I couldn't be that specific. There was just a sort of a general piece of research that was undertaken looking at a range of video games and looking at those skills. I'm sure some obviously bring out more skills than others. But what do you think, Elliot?
I think it depends on the type of game. They're all going to bring out different skills and different abilities. If it's like a really strategic game, we have to really think about it, or if it's a team-based game, that's going to do different things to a single-player game, where it's like a puzzle game or something, where you might have to really think about it and take time and be patient with it, so it might teach patience. And a lot of these things are difficult to measure. How do you know if someone's learned to be more patient? It's kind of a little personal journey that you're going on. If you can stick out a really difficult game and still continue to play it without giving up, that's real perseverance and determination. That's something else you've learned there. So I'd say think about it like you've got a really difficult puzzle, like a board game. When you play board games, you're learning a lot as well about social interaction. It's similar to that, I think. It's just on a screen. Screens aren't going anywhere. They're here to stay, right? So we need to just get used to them. So I think for a lot of people, that's what it is. It's just because they're not used to seeing people staring at screens all day. It's just completely a big negative thing for them. But it's not as simple as that.
Elliot, can I ask you something? Maybe do we have some games that we can, let's say, see? For example, this game has strategic abilities. The other game is team-based, and we can use it. I don't know. Is there any or where we can search for the games that maybe are helpful, maybe for students?
I don't know. I think depends what age the children are, because they're all going to be playing very different type of games. For young people, I think Minecraft is kind of an interesting game because it's about building and construction, and also it's a community-based game, so they can interact with each other on it, and that's good for their social skills. It's good for their thinking about their cognitive abilities in terms of having to build something and put a lot of effort into it and put a lot of time into it. So that's a bit like Lego or something like that. So it's kind of an interesting one. We always give children Lego, so let's give children Minecraft. It's less messy. So also games that are, well, if they're older, I'm recommending, a lot of children play Fortnite, and now they play Warzone, which is like a Call of Duty game. So if you're older enough, if you're over like 16, you're at top end of your teenage years, then that game is really difficult to play, and you will learn a lot from playing it, and you have to really persevere and try to get better at playing the game. So it's something that even I'm going through, really trying and persevere with this game and not give up on it, and work on my coordination and work on my communication skills. And I'm still learning about it right now. So I don't think it's something that is ever going to be over. You're always going to want to learn some more. So.
What do you think about Fortnite? Because many Greek children are using Fortnite. So what do you think about that?
I think it's the same things that I'm learning right now. They're going to be learning from a younger age. So by the time they're my age, they're going to already have these great communication skills, these leadership abilities, these abilities to just take charge in a situation and act and trust their decision making. I think those are really useful skills.
The downside is obviously the violent content, the kind of themes of destruction and killing, and that seems to be sort of a life, especially with like Fortnite, isn't it? In terms of as I understand it, and some of some of those ones for the post-16 you were talking about. This is the kind of stuff that worries parents. I know that, and in terms of that.
I think, to be honest with you, Fortnite is really cartoony, and it seems like it seems like a game that's made for children. You aren't killing anyone in real life. You're killing a caricature version of, someone who doesn't look very realistic. It's not. I don't know. Personally, don't think it's that bad, because I've grown up playing video games about killing people, and so I've not killed anyone yet. So we'll see how it goes.
I'll see how it goes. I mean, I think the other thing to remind your parents and carers watching this is, if turn this on its head and look at the children watching us as adults, and think very carefully, how much time do you think your children, your young people, see you in front of a computer, in front of your smartphone, in front of your iPad, or your tablet, whatever you're using, TV. Your television, exactly. If you added all the hours up, they see you in front of a screen. Those hours are going to be a lot of hours, aren't they, really? And then when we turn around and look at them, and hey, they seem to be playing on video games all day long, with the big judgmental kind of hat on. It's worth remembering that, actually. They're probably just mirroring us, but in something which is more accessible to them, something easier to use.
Να κάνουμε μια σύντομη παύση εδώ, επειδή έτσι εγώ ρώτησα και τους δύο αν υπάρχουν κάποια βιντεοπαιχνίδια τα οποία θα μπορούσαν να προτείνουν γενικότερα για παιδιά, γιατί είναι και κάτι που και εμένα με απασχολεί και νομίζω και τους περισσότερους από εμάς. Είπανε για το Minecraft. Το Minecraft είναι ουσιαστικά σαν τα Lego, όπου τα παιδιά προσπαθούν ουσιαστικά να χτίσουν σπίτια και κατασκευές και ουσιαστικά αναπτύσσουν και άλλες δεξιότητές τους και κοινωνικές δεξιότητες μέσα από όλο αυτό, αλλά και σε επίπεδο 3D να δουν λιγάκι πώς μπορούν να φτιάξουν κάτι σαν να τα φτιάχνουν με Lego. Και επίσης το Call of Duty και το Fortnite, που έτσι το ρώτησα πιο συγκεκριμένα ποια έτσι είναι η άποψή τους, μου είπε ο Έλιωτ ότι κυρίως και εκείνος έπαιζε πάρα πολύ video games που είχαν σκοτωμούς και όλα αυτά, αλλά δεν τον επηρέασε σήμερα αυτό, ότι ουσιαστικά και το Fortnite βοηθάει τα παιδιά στο να έχουν να αναπτύσσουν δεξιότητες που έχουν να κάνουν με τον έλεγχο, με την κυριαρχία, με το πώς να πάρουν αποφάσεις, πώς να σκεφτούν, πώς να χειριστούν πράγματα. Νομίζω όμως εδώ η ουσία είναι ότι υπάρχουν αντικρουόμενες απόψεις, γιατί ναι, όλα τα βιντεοπαιχνίδια καταρχήν είναι κομμάτι της καθημερινότητας, αυτό δεν μπορούμε να το αμφισβητήσουμε και να το αρνηθούμε. Λειτουργούν και αναπτύσσουν δεξιότητες. Από την άλλη, υπάρχει και άλλη άποψη που λέει ότι έτσι μπορεί να είναι λίγο πιο επιθετικά και αυτό να δημιουργεί περισσότερη υπερένταση στα παιδιά. Και ένα τελευταίο που είπε ο Colin Newton, το πώς μας βλέπουν τα παιδιά, έτσι, έχει πολύ σημασία. Για παράδειγμα, είχαμε οικογένεια που έλεγε η μικρή, τη λέγανε γιατί είσαι τόση ώρα στον υπολογιστή κτλ. Και έλεγε μπροστά στους γονείς της, αλλά και εσύ, μπαμπά, όταν σου λέμε να βγούμε έξω, είσαι συνέχεια και παίζει αυτό το παιχνίδι στο δικό σου υπολογιστή. Ή εσύ, μαμά, όταν σου λέει κάτι, είσαι συνέχεια με το κινητό. Θέλω να πω ότι παίζει πολύ ρόλο και πώς βλέπουν τα παιδιά τους γονείς. Και τι παράδειγμα δίνουμε εμείς τα παιδιά και πόσο χρόνο εμείς περνάμε μπροστά από την οθόνη.
So we will now going to take a 5-minute break. And when we come back, we're going to ask the question, what are we going to do about screens? That will be the first question. And we'll give you all a chance for some conversations in smaller groups about that big question. But take 5 minutes, get away from the screen right now, look out of the window, get a drink, get outside if you can. It's snowing here in the UK, you might be interested to know. It's snowing from the sky. So we'll see you in 5 minutes. That's 5 past. Yes.
Κάνουμε λοιπόν ένα διάλειμμα 5 λεπτό και μόλις επιστρέψουμε η πρώτη ερώτηση θα είναι σχετικά με τις οθόνες και με την υπερβολική χρήση των οθονών από τα παιδιά. Οπότε σε 5 λεπτά θα είμαστε πίσω. Ξεκινάμε λοιπόν σιγά σιγά. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we had two questions on screens, which kind of links a bit to the last question. One was, my child is addicted to screens all day long. And what do I do about it? And the other question was, how can we explain to children that the future is not only screens? So two questions. So we're going to combine them into one question. What do we do about children and screens? That's the question.
Οπότε, η ερώτησή μας λοιπόν και σκέψεις πάνω στο ερώτημα, τι κάνουμε για τα παιδιά που είναι όλη μέρα στην οθόνη. Έτσι, πώς το διαχειριζόμαστε.
So to do this, we're going to put you into breakout rooms, and which we thought would be quite, good bit of way of getting learning from each other, and you can more comfortably speak in Greek to each other. You can just kind of really get into this, really, because it's a common theme we know, and it links to the earlier question. So I'm just recreating some breakout rooms, and we're just going to give you only 5 minutes in the room. We'll ask you to come back, and if one of you will be prepared to share your ideas, that would be fantastic.
Άρα θα μπούμε στα breakout rooms, για 5 λεπτά θα συζητήσετε λιγάκι μεταξύ σας αυτό και κάποιος θα αναλάβει να είναι συντονιστής από κάθε ομάδα. Και μετά σε 5 λεπτά επανερχόμαστε.
See you soon.
Πατάτε join, θα σας εμφανιστεί μπροστά στο Zoom ένα παραθυράκι και εσείς πατάτε join για να μπείτε στα δωμάτια.
I think everybody's in a group now. Oops, no. Are you happy, Sophia?
Yes, why not?
Just checking. Happy, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, seems to be going well. I think from
I'm listening to you very carefully.
Good. That's what we'll be testing you later.
Okay. Deal.
Katerina, can you see the breakout rooms? You can't see the names in the people's rooms, can you?
I don't think I can see that.
No.
Let me see.
Yanis, is there a way of giving Katerina access?
I can see the names if you want me to help.
Could you, Sophia? Could you help us?
Yes.
Hello. Yes.
I was just wondering whether there was a way of giving Katerina access to the list of names in the breakout rooms.
She doesn't have access? No? She's a co-host.
Yes. Πώς μπορώ να δω ότι ποιοι είναι σε κάθε ένα δωμάτιο. Αυτό θέλω να πω. Πώς το κάνουμε αυτό?
Αν πατήσουμε πάνω στο breakout rooms, μας βγάζει τη λίστα. Αν δεν υπάρχει στη κάτω μπάρα, θα είναι εκεί που λέει more.
Ναι.
Και υπάρχει, λογικά θα είναι η τελευταία επιλογή, breakout rooms.
Στο more έχω το join breakout room. Εμένα μου βγάζει την τελευταία επιλογή.
Μάλλον...
Άρα πρέπει να με τοποθετήθηκα και εγώ σε breakout room.
Δεν νομίζω ότι είναι απαραίτητο, γιατί εγώ μπορώ να τα δω. Είμαστε και οι δύο co-host.
Για να δω. Ναι, όταν πατάω μου κάνει απλά να κάνω join σε breakout room. Τα άλλα είναι show subtitle, view full transcript και subtitle settings. Δεν ξέρω.
Κατερίνα μου,
Ναι.
το join βγαίνει σε ένα ξεχωριστό παραθυράκι. Αν το κάνεις λίγο πιο πέρα, από πίσω είναι τα breakout.
Μήπως το καλύπτει. Ναι, μήπως το καλύπτει. Το κάλυπτε το άλλο παράθυρο. Okay.
Ωραία. Πάτησα όμως το breakout rooms και τώρα μου κάνει μόνο join. Στο room 8. Δεν μου κάνει κάτι άλλο, δεν ξέρω γιατί.
Okay. Right, we're going to bring people back now, if that's okay. Can you see them now, Katerina?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, brilliant.
Γιάννη,
Ναι.
δεν βλέπω καθόλου. Εγώ βλέπω τα ονόματα στα rooms, κανονικά, απλώς στο room νούμερο 1 δεν βλέπω κανέναν.
Ναι, οκ.
Προφανώς δεν έχουν μπει, κάτι τέτοιο.
Δεν ξέρω, ναι, μπορεί.
Okay.
Ναι, το καταργήσανε γιατί δεν είχε κανέναν.
Ωραία.
It's simply when I say, let's hear from room 2, have some idea who's in that room. Katerina, that's what I'm thinking.
Λοιπόν, να ξεκινήσουμε λοιπόν, αφού I don't think they are all back.
No. But if you can help us when I say that in terms of catching the different names, Katerina, that'd be really helpful.
To read the name of the coordinator of each room, you mean?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, sure, yeah.
Right, welcome back, everybody. Yes. And okay, so let's have some feedback from room 2. And we certainly have Mapia in there. Who'd like to...
Για να δούμε από το δεύτερο δωμάτιο, λοιπόν, αν μπορέσει, αν θέλει κάποιος να μας πει τις σκέψεις σας και το feedback.
Να πούμε κάποια ονόματα, μήπως, για να βοηθηθείτε.
Καλησπέρα. Με ακούτε?
Ναι.
Η Μαρία είμαι. Εμείς είπαμε με την συναδέλφισσα ότι είναι καλό τα παιδιά να παίζουν σε εξωτερικό φυσικό χώρο. Play somewhere outside the house.
Sure. Evaristo, so giving them a chance to play somewhere else, like outside the house. Yeah, to get them away from the screen. Yeah, Evaristo, that's fantastic. And let me bring in group room 3. Anta, Elena, Konstantina, Papa.
Okay. Let me speak. I can speak.
Evaristo.
Or not. Yes, it's my turn. Thank you. I think that a way to make children far from the screens is to make gardening. So to make some plants or flowers and occupy with them personally. This is your flower. Okay, take care of it. And I think that also it's very important to go out, to take sun, because it's good for the health also. and to
Στα ελληνικά, άμα δυσκολεύεστε.
Εντάξει, το ψάχνω. Yes, to draw, perhaps you can take a piece of paper and design what you see. And at the end of the pandemic, you can make an album with your picture, your personal picture. And it's very, very important to reflect your feelings through your pictures.
Nice, yeah.
And after to see all this and to take your personal feedback with your feelings.
Yeah, that's lovely.
My opinion.
No, Avaristo, I love it. Beautiful. Straight into the feelings and into nature, into the sun, into gardening and making it personal. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. You're also reminding me of some of the work that's happened in the UK with parents during lockdown trying to find something they could do, like a kind of a project with their own children. And things like, let's make cakes, let's get good at creating cakes, we can share the cakes. Or as you say, let's do something with gardening, or let's create some beautiful pictures and display them around the place. Yeah, lovely, beautiful. Thank you. Yes, Avaristo. And then should we bring in the next room? That was Katerina, Maria, Stamatina, Maria. And
Room 4, you mean?
Yeah, so room 5 actually. There was no...
5.
Yeah, there was 5.
Από το δωμάτιο 5, αν θέλει κάποιος να μας πει ιδέες.
Who'd like to share?
Hello. Can I speak?
Please do.
I am Stamatina.
Yes, yes.
Well, I'm a teacher in kindergarten. Yes, yes. I think that an idea that help children express their feelings during that difficult period is to make a book with their parents.
Yeah, lovely.
To draw drawings, and because my children are small and can't write yet, and the parent can write for them their thoughts, and they can rewrite them. So to make a book is just making a different world, or express your feelings and make them true, because children, especially small children, are very
Δεν σας ακούμε.
How they feel about it.
Yes.
Με ακούτε?
Ναι, έκανα μια διακοπή.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes. Imagine when they are the makers of a book, they feel that they are they have something very important to them. They can change the world in that way. Thank you.
Avaristo. Yes. Kala. Yeah, I like it. Definitely. Very good. Very good. And let's bring the next group in. That was room 6. Olga, Rula.
Hi. I was with Katerina. We were 2 in the group.
Uh-huh.
Actually, Katerina is a teacher with teenagers.
Oh.
So she has, and her kids are, one is a student in a university. So she lives in another city. And she has a boy with a teenager in 16 years old, something like that. And I have 2 boys, teenager, 13 and 15 years old. So now what we are saying, especially with teenagers boys, the screen is the main player. So, and don't forget that we are counting a lot of months of lockdown. So it's not in the first month that we have done a lot of cooking, playing outside, several things. But the screen for teenager boys are the main players. So the solution here is, it's part, as Elliot said, it's part of their reality and our reality. So it has an important role in their life, but it depends always on the age. It has to, we have to put a limit. So the answer is limit, limit, limit. With negotiation, of course, with deals, of course, but definitely because the anger is there, and definitely they ask for more and more hours. So what I do at least is dealing after, of course, many conflicts. And the issue here is how much I can stand this conflict till the end in order to have this limit. So it has to do with the parent, actually.
Oh, yes.
Because the teenager is always angry. So concerning other suggestions, I think it has to do with the parent to find for the kids other suggestions, because I have the feeling they are some kind of institutionalized, the kids, especially when they don't want to go out for a walk. We have to push them, we have to give them suggestions, we have to give them fun, because they don't bother to find it by themselves, because they are in the bottom of the barrel that you said, Colin. So yeah. we have to go down there to the barrel, yep, in order to put them on the surface. So limit is the answer to the screen. Yes, screen. The screen used to be only the weekends before the lockdown. Now it's every day. Yes, we agreed on that, but in a limited time.
Sure.
And with limits limits concerning what they see in that screen.
Sure.
Because if they are 13 years old, 15 years old, I do mind if the gameplay, the game that they will choose is 16 and above.
Sure.
No matter if their friends play that. So limits are everywhere. So we have to be there with these limits, and not just exist.
Clara. Evaristo. Very clear position. Limits. Evaristo. And yeah, and useful points there, really. Some very good points there. Thank you for that. And can I, we haven't really got time to go through all the groups, but did one more person want to come back and make a point on this? Just one more chance for one person from any of the other groups. Okay.
Good evening.
Oh, yes. Good evening.
Hi. I'm Dimitra from room number 8.
Oh, yes.
Okay. I was with Stamatia in the room. And both of us, we have young children, 7, 10, and 12 years old.
Sure.
I will sum up our thoughts very briefly. We said that we are going out with friends, few friends, because it's not easy to go out with all our friends anyway, and doing many outdoor activities, cycling, walking, football,
sure,
this kind of activities. Stamatia proposed a 2 days break, 2 days off, away from cameras. And they did it in their family. That was good. And in the house, we have limitations for how long we stay in front of the cameras. And we're trying to organize different activities during the day, depending on the preferences of the children, most of the times. Even other lessons, dancing, and maybe crafting, lots of time. That's it.
Nice. Yeah,
We're trying a lot to maintain a good mood. Anyway, that's difficult. Okay, thank you very much.
Very good. So, Elliot, can I ask did you manage to catch this on the graphic, please?
And there is one more question from Facebook. Can I?
Oh yes, go.
Add something? Are there any initiatives led by the British Ministry? Sorry, I lost it. Sorry, I lost it. Are there any initiatives led by the British Ministry of Education concerning the right use of digital media? Is a question from Facebook.
No, I think would be the simple answer there, wouldn't you, Elliot?
I've got a good answer for that. Is that Mark Zuckerberg, the guy who invented Facebook, doesn't let his kid go on Facebook. So that's an interesting, rule of thumb. Is your child safe online? That's another question we haven't really talked about, but it's a different question. It's not what we're here to talk about. But having limitations on your child's technology is a very good idea. And you can stop them from going on over 18's websites. You can stop adult content. You can stop it after a certain amount of time. You can let them use it for 2 hours and then it turns itself off or it locks. So it's really easy to do. So find out about it. Just search for it online. But I think we've got the right idea here about negotiating a limit.
I think so. Right. Thanks, Elliot. Now there was 2 or 3 questions about stress and anxiety, and so we're just going to share some slides with you on this theme. One of the questions was quite simply, how can we face stress? And somebody else asked, we need techniques to face stress as well. So on that stress theme. And somebody else said the everyday life is full of stress. And we get very upset very often. Links to the isolation feeling that somebody else mentioned. And the difficulties of putting down limits when we feel so stressed. So there's a lot of questions about the stress theme. So we just thought in answering that question, we would just share some slides with you on the anxiety and theme kind of question piece. Katerina, do you want to catch that?
Νομίζω ότι είπατε πάρα πολύ ωραίες ιδέες σε σχέση με τις εναλλακτικές που μπορούν να κάνουν τα παιδιά έξω. Πώς γίνεται να βάζουμε όρια, π.χ. 2 ώρες την ημέρα, να δίνουμε ευκαιρίες, να περνάμε καλά, να φτιάξουμε ένα πολύ ωραίο βιβλίο με τους γονείς, που μπορούν οι γονείς να γράψουν μέσα στο βιβλίο τη σκέψη των παιδιών να είναι πολύ πιο μικρά. Μία άλλη μαμά είπε πώς μπορούμε 2 μέρες να είμαστε εκτός κάμερας και εκτός οθόνης. Πάρα πολύ ωραίες ιδέες και νομίζω μεταξύ σας και ρωτώντας έτσι και άλλους ανθρώπους, είτε είναι εκπαιδευτικοί είτε γονείς, μπορεί να πάρετε και ακόμα περισσότερες ιδέες. Τώρα όμως χρειάζεται λιγάκι να μεταβούμε σε μία άλλη τελευταία ενότητα που έχει να κάνει με το στρες και πώς μπορούμε λιγάκι αυτό να το διαχειριστούμε αυτή την περίοδο. Okay.
So make some notes for this piece, write stuff down, type it down because it's going to be quite quick. And these are some of these ideas you may want to go back to later on and have a think about for yourself and for your children. There's a lot of stress and anxiety around right now. That's the first point. Interestingly, they did some research in the UK and they found 2/3 of the adults were worrying about the effect COVID was having on their lives. So that's interesting, isn't it? And I bet it'll be the same in Greece. I'm sure it'll be the same. That's how many people are worrying.
Τα 2/3 των Άγγλων ουσιαστικά ανησυχούν για τι αποτελέσματα θα έχει και γενικότερα τι επιπτώσεις θα έχει ο κορονοϊός και η πανδημία στη ζωή μας.
So we're worrying about the effect on our own lives right now as we go through COVID, but we're also worrying about obviously the impact on our children's lives and our young people's lives. What's the long-term impact of this going to be? Where's it all going? Big natural worries. And all we want to do in this piece is just acknowledge that you're very likely to be having those feelings.
Και για να δούμε λιγάκι μακροχρόνιες επιπτώσεις μπορεί να έχουν τα παιδιά.
And typically people are worrying about the future, they're feeling very stressed or anxious, they're feeling very bored. None of this is good, and all of this is kind of, just adds to it. And this is for the adults, and it's the same for the children.
Μπορούν να ανησυχούν για το μέλλον, να νιώθουν βαρεμάρα.
There's lots of ideas about what you can do. Anything you can pick, you can just put this into Google, and ideas will come straight back out at you. From anything from making a nice cup of tea, to going on a walk that fills you with wonder and awe. Somebody told me that last week. That's a lovely idea. Something that makes you go, oh, how lovely. Just taking fresh air, getting out in the sun. Decentralized thinking. That's trying not just to try and think about your situation, looking in, rather than just worrying about it in your own head. What does this look like? What's going on here, really? And the final one, being prepared to share the mistakes you've made this week, the screw up of the week, the big mistake you made this week. For me, going to the wrong meeting at the wrong place at the wrong time for a meeting that was already cancelled. It's that kind of sharing of things we've really made. And this is good for children as well as for adults. And children love to see us making mistakes and admitting to them.
Πολύ ωραίο αυτό, πώς μπορούμε να παραδεχτούμε και τα δικά μας λάθη και να τα μοιραστούμε μεταξύ μας, ότι και εμείς κάνουμε λάθη και είναι κάποια από αυτά. Και άλλο ένα πολύ ωραίο που είπε τώρα ο Colin είναι ουσιαστικά πώς μπορούμε να δούμε τον εαυτό μας από μια άλλη οπτική γωνία. Δηλαδή να βγούμε από το κάδρο, από αυτό που ζούμε αυτή τη στιγμή και να μας δούμε αν ήμασταν έξω από αυτό, πώς θα βλέπαμε τη ζωή μας. Μας βοηθάει να έχουμε λίγο μια άλλη οπτική.
So a good question for you to think about is, what have you got in your life raft that keeps you emotionally okay? And not only what have you already got that makes you feel safe and secure and not anxious, but what do you need? So we haven't got time to address that now, but make a note of these questions. What have you already got that's keeping you afloat? And what do you need to make you feel more secure and less anxious?
Πολύ ωραίο. Αν είχαμε μια σχεδία και πρέπει να βάλουμε μέσα κάτι, ποια ήταν αυτά τα στοιχεία, ποιες είναι αυτές οι ανάγκες, τι χρειαζόμαστε για να είμαστε συναισθηματικά εντάξει, να νιώθουμε και ασφαλείς, αλλά και να νιώθουμε ότι μπορούμε να είμαστε συναισθηματικά ok. Τι λοιπόν χρειαζόμαστε για να νιώθουμε καλά, να το σκεφτούμε.
So, appreciate what you're already doing well, like the gardening, like those trips out, like the music and the dancing, whatever's working well for you and your young people, keep that precious in your life raft. But think, is there something else I need here, really, to keep the raft afloat so it's not going to go under the water of COVID?
Τι κάνω καλά, ποια είναι τα πράγματα από τα οποία παίρνω ικανοποίηση και νιώθω ότι τα καταφέρνω, έτσι, να τα λαμβάνουμε υπόψη μας και τι άλλο χρειαζόμαστε αυτή την περίοδο.
So where does anxiety come from? Well, if there's too much from the outside, so if you're watching too much news and all you see is bad news, and the same for your children, well, that's too much. That's very stressful. If there's too much coming up from inside because you're ill or you're worrying or you're really chewing on things a lot, that can cause anxiety. Or if you're just bored out of your mind because you can't go anywhere, see anywhere, do all the fun things you like to do, and your children the same, all these things build your anxiety.
Και φυσικά τα υπερβολικά ρεθίσματα απ' έξω, οι πληροφορίες, τα νέα, οι ειδήσεις, τα δικά μας, το δικό μας άγχος, η εσωτερική μας δηλαδή ανησυχία, έτσι, και φυσικά η βαρεμάρα που πολλοί από εμάς μπορεί να νιώθουμε ή πολλοί που δεν δουλεύουν αυτή την περίοδο που εκεί είναι τα πράγματα έτσι, που δυσκολεύονται πολύ. Όλα αυτά μας δημιουργούν πάρα πολύ στρες και άγχος.
Now, we could spend a lot longer on just anxiety and stress. But just in a nutshell, these are some things you can do to strengthen your sense of well-being. trying to reconnect back with yourself. And all these things you can do for yourself, but also you can encourage your child to do. Showing gratitude and compassion, having clear boundaries, being able to say no to other people in the family, offering support and receiving support, thinking about your physical health, doing enough exercise, eating well, sleeping well, resting well, relaxing, and drawing on the emotional resources you need.
Mm-hmm. Για πες μου, Αλέξανδρα, τι κατάλαβες από το κείμενο?
Συγγνώμη, αν μπορείτε λίγο να κλείσετε να το βάλετε λίγο στο mute. Πώς μπορούμε λοιπόν να επιτύχουμε το well-being, τι σημαίνει αυτό, να συνδεθούμε ξανά με τον εαυτό μας, να δείξουμε ευγνωμοσύνη, ακόμα και για πράγματα πολύ πολύ μικρά. Αλλά δεν είναι αυτονόητα, έτσι, το ότι είμαστε, το ότι όταν...
Θέλουμε, Αλέξανδρα, το ρήμα κλέτα.
Παρακαλώ, τα μικρόφωνά μας να παραμείνουν κλειστά, παρακαλώ. Ευχαριστώ.
So I press the mute button. Other things you can do to strengthen your well-being: valuing yourself, obviously valuing your child and encouraging them to value themselves, keeping an optimistic and positive outlook, and again, trying to encourage your young person to be the same, boxing things up, compartmentalizing. We're doing schoolwork now we're playing, we're having fun, being much clearer sometimes about the compartments, sometimes changing clothing to kind of mark the change in the time. Don't worry about that one. Sharing concerns, don't just kind of bottling things up to yourselves, and carrying out hobbies and interests, and trying to find as many ways for fun and laughter as you can possibly think of.
Να εκτιμήσουμε τον εαυτό μας, να κρατήσουμε μια έτσι αισιόδοξη στάση. Κυρίως εγώ θα εστίαζα πάρα πολύ σε αυτό, στο να έχουμε τη δική μας κοινότητα που μπορούμε να απευθυνθούμε με τους φίλους μας, τους συγγενείς μας, να μιλάμε, να μην είμαστε μόνοι μας, να μοιραζόμαστε τις ανησυχίες μας και τους προβληματισμούς μας και να μην ξεχνάμε τα χόμπι μας και ό,τι έτσι μας ενδιαφέρει. Είτε αυτό είναι χορός, είτε αυτό είναι τέχνη, είτε αυτό είναι οτιδήποτε, να το έχουμε έτσι στη ζωή μας. Και φυσικά όσο μπορούμε να κάνουμε πράγματα φαν, να γελάμε και να χαιρόμαστε τη ζωή, ακόμα και αν είναι τόσο δύσκολη τώρα.
Now, here's a nice little, this is an activity for you to do after this session, or when the children have gone to bed, or when you get a spare few minutes. And it's called the Wheel of Self-Care. And you can do it for yourself. You can do it with your children, with your young people, but probably good to start with yourself, really, as parents. And just go through each of these and think for yourself. You need the wheel to be round and balanced. So you need to think of, well, what's going okay for me in these different areas? What do I need more of, perhaps, in these? And what do I need less of? And also think about maybe what's getting in the way. So I'm just going to take you through the different areas of the wheel.
Ένας πολύ ωραίος τροχός για να δούμε έτσι γιατί ο τροχός αυτοφροντίδας τα λέγαμε. Και μπορούμε να δείτε λιγάκι, να πάρετε λίγο χρόνο καθένας, ίσως να σκεφτείτε στο επίπεδο της δουλειάς, στο επίπεδο το σωματικό, το πνευματικό, στο επίπεδο των σχέσεων. Τι θα χρειάζασταν περισσότερο ή τι θα χρειάζασταν λιγότερο. Είναι μια πολύ ωραία αφορμή αυτή να σκεφτείτε.
This also links up as an answer to our question. Somebody raised the question, how do you remain positive? And this is a good way into answering that question as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so here's the main elements of the wheel of self-care, of what keeps your good, strong sense of well-being. So to pay attention to your relationships within the family, with friends, with kind of work colleagues, whoever's in your life, really. So that's relationships. Think, what do I need more of in those relationships? Do I need more time with friends? Do I need to contact? Do I need more time with the extended family who I'm not seeing? What do I need less of? I need less time with that person who keeps phoning me up and draining me and taking my positive energy away. And maybe I need a little bit less of that, a bit more of the other. So thinking for each of them, what do I need more of? What do I need less of? So emotionally, again, thinking, where am I with my emotions? I can be quite calm and quite chilled, but then, and I want more of that feeling. I perhaps need a little bit, I need less of that anxiety. I need less of that angry feeling that keeps welling up in me. what can I do about that? What can I do to kind of help get that balance right? Work, maybe you're working as well as parenting right now. It's extremely hard to keep that balance going. So again, what do I need more of? And you might be thinking, well, time without the children with me, but you know, that's not going to happen. So what can you manage within that really? What do I need more of? What do I need less of? Physically, you kind of know what you should be doing around your eating and your diet and your exercise. And maybe some things are going well for you, like some people mentioned, the cycling and the walking, but maybe you need a bit more of something else, and you need to maybe a bit less of the extra eating, or a little bit less of the extra alcohol you're taking right now. You know, what is it you kind of need to get that just right? Psychologically, again, most of us usually know what's going well and what's not going well. What do you need a bit more of to make yourself psychologically okay, and what do we need less of? And spiritually, you know, if you're a spiritual person, you know, if God is in your life, you have a way of spiritually exploring that. Maybe you can't get to church like you perhaps usually would do. What are you doing in your prayer life? Or if you're not somebody who believes in God, but maybe you'd like to experience things spiritually through meditation or mindfulness, you know, are you neglecting that area for yourself, or what else can you do to strengthen that area? So the idea is to look at all those elements in turn, and as I say, consider what do I need more of, what do I need less of, and then at the bottom it simply says self-care actions. So that's where you simply write in, what am I going to do about any of these things?
Νομίζω ότι όπως αναφέραμε και προηγουμένως, λιγάκι να δούμε σε κάθε ένα κομμάτι του τροχού που βρισκόμαστε, τι έχουμε ανάγκη και τι έχουμε λιγότερο ανάγκη. Okay, we can continue.
Okay, fine. So that's probably enough of those slides there for now. So let's pick up some more questions here. So maybe if we just...
Just a moment, please. Just a moment. Υπήρχε ένα χεράκι που είχε σηκωθεί, κυρία Τσιά μου, νομίζω. Θέλατε να κάνετε κάποιο σχόλιο?
Καλησπέρα και από μένα, ναι. Ήθελα, σε σχέση με τις οθόνες πάλι, κάτι που με προβληματίζει και ως εκπαιδευτικό και ως γονιό, και θα ήθελα να μας πει και την εμπειρία του. Κατά τη διάρκεια της τηλεκπαίδευσης στην Ελλάδα, επειδή είναι κλειστές οι κάμερες, έχουμε το φαινόμενο τα παιδιά να ασχολούνται με τα κοινωνικά δίκτυα, δηλαδή να παίζουν video games, να μιλάνε στο chat, στα κινητά τους. Και επίσης είναι πάρα πολλές οι ώρες μπροστά στην οθόνη και συχνά συνδέονται από το κινητό. Δηλαδή 7 ώρες είναι καθημερινά στο κινητό. Τα παιδιά του Λυκείου είναι περισσότερο καιρό με τηλεκπαίδευση παρά διαζώσεις. Οι ερωτήσεις λοιπόν είναι, υπάρχει αντίστοιχο πρόβλημα στην Αγγλία, νομίζω μένουν οι ομιλητές μας.
Ναι.
Ωραία, υπάρχει αντίστοιχο πρόβλημα, δηλαδή είναι πολλές οι ώρες, είναι από κινητά. Και επίσης, κατά τη διάρκεια των τηλεμαθημάτων μας, δεν υπάρχει συμμετοχή από τους μαθητές, διότι έχουν κλειστές τις κάμερες και δεν παρακολουθούν. Δηλαδή, πολλές φορές από τα 22 παιδιά μπορεί να συμμετέχουν μόνο τα 5, τα 7. Ωραία, ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Ναι, είστε καλά. Επειδή λιγάκι το αναπτύξαμε αυτό το κεφάλαιο αρκετά προηγουμένως, θα το αναφέρω στους συντονιστές μας και αν είναι προς το τέλος για να δούμε λιγάκι και τι άλλο θέλουν να ρωτήσουν. The question is about what happens with the education through the screen right now, and many children, they don't follow the curriculum, but they are in social media and they spend many hours in the screens. But I thought we talked about that earlier, but if you want to comment something at the end of the session, we can do them. Or what do you think?
So the question is, kind of, what do we do about it if a child is very focused on social media, Katerina?
Yes, when they have their curriculum and they attend the curriculum in the school through the screen, they usually turn off the camera and go to social media or play video games or.
Right, that's interesting. So yeah.
And if that happens in England too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And we've seen the whole extremes from, you know, some very cooperative children who will just engage fully with the school lessons, and that doesn't happen, to others who won't engage at all in any schoolwork whatsoever, and they're only doing their own thing. They're only gaming, or they're only engaging in social media. And really, it's the parent's classic challenge, really, isn't it? You know, what do you do as a parent when you're trying to get your child to do homework in prior times, or in this case, to engage with the work, really. So I think all the comments that we made earlier on, really, and the person who said about limits, the points about negotiation, I think are important in this, really. You know, building in the kind of the rewarding times when the young person can do their own thing, with the more challenging times when they're doing the schoolwork. But I think interrupt, really. Don't just let that go. I would say interrupt that. Have the conversation. Definitely. As soon as that parent is spotting that happening, they should be talking about it, really. Definitely. Elliot, what's your take on this?
Probably think strategically about where you sit them when they're working, and make sure you can see their screen all the time. I don't know if that's always going to be possible, but yeah, if that would be really useful.
Yeah, good practical point. Yeah, absolutely.
Θα μπορούσατε λοιπόν, έτσι λένε οι ομιλητές μας, καταρχήν να το συζητήσετε, ή όπως προτείνανε οι προηγούμενοι, να θέσετε όρια, π.χ. 1-2 ώρες την ημέρα, έτσι, να είναι κάτι το οποίο θα το δοκιμάσετε και θα το θέσετε μαζί, ή στο κομμάτι να μπορούσατε να καθίσετε μαζί τους, ώστε να μπορείτε λιγάκι να ελέγχετε την οθόνη και το τι ακριβώς κάνουν τα παιδιά εκείνη την ώρα του μαθήματος δηλαδή.
Bristow, but good questions. Because other people will be thinking exactly the same thing.
Κυρία Σοφιανοπούλου, λιγάκι πιο δυνατά.
Ναι, εντάξει.
Ήθελα να το ρωτήσετε, στην Αγγλία είναι ανοιχτές οι κάμερες? Δηλαδή τα παιδιά του δημοτικού, του γυμνασίου, του λυκείου έχουν ανοιχτές τις κάμερες? Ο καθηγητής τους βλέπει, εμείς δεν έχουμε ούτε οι καθηγητές ανοιχτή την κάμερα εδώ. Και επίσης το γεγονός ότι συναθρίζονται αυτές οι ώρες, δηλαδή και το πρωί είναι στην οθόνη και κάνουν φροντιστήρια εξωσχολικά και το απόγευμα θέλουν να παίξουν video games. Όλα αυτά μήπως είναι πάρα πολλές ώρες πάνω σε ένα κινητό, πάνω σε μια οθόνη, πάνω σε έναν υπολογιστή? Ήθελα να ρωτήσω, δηλαδή στην Αγγλία είναι ανοιχτές οι κάμερες στο σχολείο, στην τηλεκπαίδευση?
Okay. They ask whether in England the cameras are open during the curriculum, or the teaching through a screen.
Yes.
Do the teachers and children have open cameras, or they are turned off?
Yeah, they do have open cameras. They didn't in the first lockdown, but they did in the most recent lockdown. Yes, so literally the teacher could see the child kind of engaging or not. But obviously, you know how it works. At your end, the child can switch off the camera. You can switch off the camera. But they were encouraged to leave them on so that the teachers could see the children. Definitely.
So they encourage them to have the open cameras, but some children can turn off the cameras.
Exactly. It's so easy, isn't it? So easy. Yeah.
But it happens.
It did happen.
I mean,
it did happen. Exactly. That's the reality. So yes, exactly. So we you know, it's all compromise, isn't it? It's all trying to do what you can do, really, without making it too hard.
Okay.
So any other, I wanted to open on this theme though, because there was a big theme here from several questions about encouraging young people to engage with schoolwork, to engage, to join in, to be part of things. So again, I'd like to encourage people to use the chat. And we'll build on the ideas that come through here. How do we get young people to engage in schoolwork engagements? Because it's an important theme, isn't it, at this time? So they're right in the middle of lockdown. Schools are trying to engage the children at a distance, but it's hard. So what are you finding is working, is our question to the group. And could you use the chat, please, to put your answers in, and then we'll come in with answers as well.
Νομίζω ότι σε αυτό που ρωτήσατε, και στην Αγγλία έχουν ανοιχτές τις κάμερες και ενθαρρύνουν οι δάσκαλοι να έχουν τα παιδιά ανοιχτές τις κάμερες, αλλά μπορεί και εκεί να συμβεί να είναι κλειστές. Εδώ η αλήθεια είναι ότι λόγω του ότι δεν σηκώνει το δικό μας σύστημα και για άλλους λόγους, ιδιωτικότητας κτλ., πια δεν είναι τέτοιο, αλλά μπορούμε να τους ενθαρρύνουμε. Αν αυτό έτσι γίνεται. Τώρα, θα δούμε λιγάκι στο chart όλα αυτά τα οποία συζητήσατε, λιγάκι να τα βάλουμε λίγο σε μια σειρά. Okay.
And we're getting some nice ideas here, absolutely. Encouraging them to communicate to each other, interrupting lessons many times, practical activities, making clocks for telling the time. I think this practical theme, cooking things, making things, visiting places outside the home, get away from the screen, take the child away from the screen to learn about things in other places, really important. Leaving the cameras open so that parents, because parents are nearby. That sounds like that's Stamatadina, who's a teacher, obviously taught speaking, absolutely. Anything else that helps the engagement? So yeah, I'll keep talking about this, what I've learned in the UK from what parents were doing. So anything that kind of didn't feel too much like it was just schoolwork, but it really was schoolwork. So creating, finding out about something in the local community. So on the walk, deliberately finding things out in the local community that would link in to what you were doing, or creating even a little project that had nothing to do with the curriculum, but actually was still the child learning, but maybe something from scratch, like the cakes example, making those cakes and then giving those cakes out. Some parents were described, and my wife was telling me, they're like almost, although they're only quite young, 9-10-year-olds, as creating like a little enterprise. You know, we were making these things and then we were selling them, and we happened to all the sums that got involved, and then the money we made, we were giving to a charity. So there were lots of things going on there. As people are saying here, people-centered teaching and discussion about interesting topics. See, it's got to be interesting. You can't try and keep them going when they're bored out of their brains with it. Comparing our feet maths, nice. Creating fun moments, absolutely. This was an interesting thing as well. I learned, again, you might be wondering, are your children going to be falling way behind? It's turning out in the UK, with children coming back to school, that many children have done much better with their reading. Their reading has really gone on, really accelerated the progress for many children, because parents have been so focused on working with their children that one thing they've definitely been doing is listening to their children read. And if there's one thing we know about parent involvement, is that listening to your children read increases the reading skills. So if you're working with children who are still learning to read, anything you can do just to read with them more is really, really worth doing. It's another point here from Angela. An art project. Children need to collect natural materials outdoors. Very good. Pine cones, sticks, stones, leaves. Creating art they've collected. Lovely. Showing films and discussing. Role play. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. And this, I just have to say this, there's an approach here called philosophy. Philosophy for children. And we know, in Greece, you invented philosophy, so maybe I shouldn't even be sharing this idea with you, but there is a lovely approach called philosophy for children, which you can use in the family home. All you have to do is have a stimulus object or a film or an item, something interesting, and every child in the family can have something. You bring it along, whatever it is, here's an object, and you say, what are your questions about this? And everybody in the family has to think of a question. We then choose one question, and then we discuss our answers to that question. So it's like a philosophy discussion. So it's very good for the brain, very good for the brain, very good for the language development, very good for the discussion. So for instance, a picture of an obese cat was brought along, a large cat that obviously had eaten too much. And the children raised their questions in this family, and the question that was chosen was a question about kindness, being kind to cats, or just being kind to people, really. So can you be too kind became the question. That's what they then debated and got the philosophical conversation around. Is there a problem about being too kind? In other words, feeding the cat too much food. So that's something else you can do. Katerina?
Yes. Νομίζω θέσαν έτσι πολλά πράγματα. Κυρίως νομίζω ότι αυτό που έχει νόημα να κρατήσουμε έχει να κάνει με το πώς μπορούμε τα παιδιά αυτό που κάνουμε να τους είναι ενδιαφέρον. Όπως είπε και μία έτσι, η Άντζελα, βλέπω εδώ, έτσι, που τους βάλετε ουσιαστικά να συλλέξουν διάφορα πράγματα έτσι από τη φύση και να φτιάξουν κολλάζ. Γενικότερα, ό,τι τους κάνει νόημα, δηλαδή να συνδέσουμε αυτά τα οποία μαθαίνουν με την καθημερινότητά τους, με τη ζωή τους, να τους κάνει νόημα, να έχουμε φαν fun, όσο γίνεται να περνάμε καλά μέσα στο σπίτι και να έχουμε έτσι χρόνο που περνάμε καλά, να διαβάζουμε βιβλία. Αυτό ξέρουμε ότι ενισχύει πολύ τη γνωστική ανάπτυξη, αλλά και τη σχέση γονιού-παιδιού. Μην το ξεχνάμε, κυρίως πριν τον ύπνο, το να διαβάζουμε μαζί τους βοηθάει πάρα πολύ τα παιδιά και τη σχέση μας. Και έτσι κάτι άλλο το οποίο προτείνανε που έχει ενδιαφέρον είναι το να θέτουμε φιλοσοφικές ερωτήσεις. Για παράδειγμα, τι πιστεύετε εσείς, παιδιά, είναι κακό να είναι κανείς πάρα πολύ καλός σε κάτι ή να θέλει πάρα πολύ... Θέλω να πω ότι γενικά φιλοσοφικά ερωτήματα τα οποία ιντριγκάρουν τα παιδιά και είναι μια πολύ ωραία ουσιαστικά έτσι, συζήτηση να δείτε λίγο πώς να σκεφτείτε και με αυτόν τον τρόπο βοηθάμε και την κριτική του σκέψη και τη γλωσσική τους ανάπτυξη και έτσι είναι μια πολύ ωραία φορμή για συζήτηση. Δηλαδή πέρα από τα καθημερινά, να ρωτήσουμε και άλλα θέματα, να ρωτήσουμε τη γνώμη τους για κάτι. Και θα το πηγαίνουμε και παραπάνω σε σχέση και με μια είδηση που ακούμε. Και μικρά να είναι τα παιδιά. Εσύ, Γιωργάκη, ας πούμε, τι πιστεύεις γι' αυτό? Ποια είναι η γνώμη σου πάνω σε αυτό? Έτσι τους αναπτύσσουμε, ακούμε, νιώθουν τα παιδιά ότι ακούγεται η γνώμη τους και μπαίνουν σε μια διαδικασία να το σκεφτούν περισσότερο, αντί να τους δίνουμε έτοιμη τη γνώση.
Well, we're getting towards the end. But there was one question I thought was a very good question to use towards the end of the question and answers, and that was the question from a parent who asked, "Do you think that the pandemic is going to change human relationships forever?" That's the question, Katerina.
Yes. Τελικά η ερώτηση κατά πόσο όλο αυτό μπορεί να αλλάξει τη ζωή μας για πάντα. Για να δούμε πάνω σε αυτήν την ερώτηση.
Well, I don't think we're ever going to forget it, do you? That's for certain. And but I thought you'd be encouraged to hear again about what it's been like for UK children coming back to school. Some children most children, in terms of what I've learned, most children are loving coming back to school, I have to say, after lockdown. Just running in, very happy to see their friends, super engaged. Some children have become very anxious about coming back to school. If your child has become very anxious when it is time to go back to school, please talk to the school in advance about that. Or if your child has autism and the big transition from the comfortable world they've got used to at home to going to school is going to be massive for them. Talk to school staff, because maybe your child needs a phased return. If they're very anxious, it's good for school to know, because they can give the child a soft landing at that end. So that's very important around relationships at the point of transition, kind of going back into school.
Νομίζω ότι σίγουρα ότι όλη αυτή η φάση που περνάμε νομίζω είναι κάτι που δεν θα ξεχάσουμε εύκολα. Βλέπουμε όμως ότι μέσα από όλο αυτό πώς έχει αναπτυχθεί η αγάπη των παιδιών για το σχολείο και πώς θα θέλουν ξανά να επιστρέψουν στο σχολείο ή να δουν τους φίλους τους κτλ. Αλλά χρειάζεται να έχουμε κατά νου ότι παιδιά τα οποία είναι αρκετά αγχωμένα, καλό είναι να το συζητήσουμε αυτό και να το αναφέρουμε στο σχολείο, να το έχουν υπόψη τους και να τα υποστηρίξουμε σε όλο αυτό.
And children, and I think, I mean, if you're finding it really hard, being with your child at home and you're trying to teach them, trying to support their learning, I think, the balance for me would always be to think about their mental health and their social emotional relationships with you and the rest of the family. Always, because they can go back to school, they can learn later on into life, they can catch up on stuff like this, but what they can never replace is their relationship with you. So don't jeopardize, don't spoil your relationship with your child. Make this a special time and love your children, enjoy your children as best you can at this time, rather than making it so hard for them that you're trying to squeeze learning out of them when it's just not going to happen realistically. So make this a precious time. Make it a time that they can have happy memories from, not bad memories, good memories about how it was with you.
Νομίζω ότι αυτό που λένε είναι πάρα πολύ σημαντικό, ότι τη γνώση μπορούν να την πάρουν και την επόμενη και την μεθεπόμενη χρονιά. Αυτό όμως που δεν μπορούν να πάρουν πίσω είναι οι σχέσεις σας. Αυτό είναι το μόνο που δεν μπορούν να αντικαταστήσουν. Οπότε προσπαθήστε να επενδύσετε και να προφυλάξετε τις σχέσεις σας. Έτσι, αυτό είναι το πιο σημαντικό. Να απολαύσετε τα παιδιά στο σπίτι, να απολαύσετε το ότι τώρα είστε μαζί τους, να έχετε ξεχωριστό ποιοτικό χρόνο που θα παίξετε. Μην χαλάσετε τις σχέσεις σας για τα διαβάσματα. Τη γνώση θα την πάρουν και σε άλλες και στις επόμενες τάξεις. Δεν πειράζει.
One last quote, Elliot.
It was the time when they loved each other best, without hurry or excess, when both were most conscious of and grateful for their incredible victories over adversity. Life would still present them with other mortal traits, of course, but that no longer mattered. They were on the other shore.
They made it. Another beautiful quote from Love in the Time of Cholera. So, Evaristo, that's all we have time for. Lovely talking to you. Fantastic questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your presence in this extra session today. Σας ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ όλους για την παρουσία σας σήμερα, για τα ενδιαφέροντα σχόλια που είχατε και τα ερωτήματα που στείλατε. Ήταν ιδιαίτερη χαρά να έχουμε τον κύριο Colin Newton και τον κύριο Elliot Newton μαζί μας. Ελπίζουμε και στο μέλλον να καταφέρουμε να τους έχουμε και πάλι. Να σας καληνυχτήσουμε και αύριο υπενθυμίζουμε ότι έχουμε κανονικά τη συνάντησή μας πάλι στις 6 με τον ίδιο σύνδεσμο, που έχουμε το θέμα για τις οθόνες και έτσι περισσότερο εξειδικευμένα και κατά αποκλειστικότητα. Καλό βράδυ. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ.
Καλό βράδυ. Σας ευχαριστούμε πολύ όλους. Να είστε καλά. Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Elliot, for being here.
Κυρία Σοφιανοπούλου, ευχαριστούμε πολύ και για την πολύτιμη βοήθεια.